Welcome to this daily PBJ devotional. Read Numbers 2, Ecclesiastes 12, and Psalm 115 to keep up with our Bible reading schedule for this year to cover the Old Testament. This devotional is about Ecclesiastes 12. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth, before the days of adversity come, and the years approach of which you will say, I find no pleasure in them. Before the light of the sun, moon, and stars is darkened, and the clouds return after the rain. On the day the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men stoop, when those grinding cease because they are few, and those watching through windows see dimly. When the doors to the street are shut, and the sound of the mill fades away, when one rises at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song grow faint, when men fear the heights and dangers of the road, when the almond tree blossoms and the grasshopper loses its spring, and the caperberry shrivels. For then man goes to his eternal home, and mourners walk the streets. Remember him before the silver cord is snapped, and the golden bowl is crushed, before the pitcher is shattered at the spring, and the wheel is broken at the well, before the dust returns to the ground from which it came, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Futility of futilities, says the teacher, everything is futile. Not only was the teacher wise, but he also taught the people knowledge. He pondered, searched out, and arranged many proverbs. The teacher searched to find delightful sayings and to record accurate words of truth. The words of the wise are like goads, and the anthologies of the masters are like firmly embedded nails driven by a single shepherd. And by these, my son, be further warned. There is no end to the making of many books, and much study wearies the body. When all has been heard, the conclusion of the matter is this: fear God and keep his commandments, because this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment, along with every hidden thing, whether good or evil. This is God's word. Here in Ecclesiastes 12, Solomon begins to sum up his experience and bring the book to a close. Chapter 12 opened with a command to remember God the Creator while you are young, as we saw in verse 1. Verses 2 through 8 explain why it is important to focus your life on God while you are young. But what Solomon wrote in these verses has been understood in a couple of different ways. One approach to understanding chapter 12, verses 1 through 8, is called the allegory of old age. This interpretation sees every image as describing a human body that is breaking down as it gets older. For instance, when verse 2 says, the sun and the light and the moon and the stars grow dark, that's a description of an older person's failing vision. And when it says the grinders cease because they are few in verse 3, that's a poetic way of talking about the fact that a person's teeth are falling out because they're getting older. A second approach to this passage is to see this as describing the decline of life and the onset of death through the metaphor of a storm. In this interpretation, the sun and the light, in that verse I just read, growing dark, is describing the approach of the storm. Likewise, the door to the street are closed and the sound of grinding fades because people see the storm coming and are seeking shelter before it arrives. Both of these interpretations have some weaknesses, but both of them seem to be describing the approach of death. The end of verse 5 demonstrates this when it says, then people go to their eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. That's from the NIV. The point of the passage is that you should not wait to seek God when you are near death. All the godless approaches to life that Solomon tried and described here in Ecclesiastes were frustratingly enigmatic. So none of them will give you the satisfaction you think they will. If you think you should live for pleasure while you're young, then turn to God when you get older. You'll find that the pleasure you seek is unsatisfying anyway, and death will descend on you so quickly that it is too late to prepare for when you get old. This truth is one that we should reflect on and urge on those who are younger. There is a tendency to think that people will get serious about God as they get older, more mature, and wiser. But the truth is that as you get older, you tend to get more set in your ways. Instead of turning to God because you found every other approach to life unsatisfying, older people who have lived apart from God just tend to become more cynical and jaded, not worshipful and godly all of a sudden. Solomon's advice then is found in verse 13. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of mankind. There are many frustrating, enigmatic problems that come with living in this life. We all wish we could solve the riddle of why things that should make us happy leave us feeling at best disappointed and at worst miserable. But it is foolish to waste our lives trying to disprove Solomon's teaching. Instead, to make the best use of the life God has given you, follow his ways in faith, and let him be the judge of all things. Whether you are young or old, there is no sense in waiting until you get older to serve God. The fun you think you will have pursuing your own life selfishly and sinfully will not be as satisfying, and death will close in on you faster than you can possibly imagine. So follow God's ways and trust him to provide the joys and satisfactions that the righteous enjoy. This, according to Solomon, according to God's word, is the secret to life. If you found this devotional helpful, please sign up to receive it every day in your email. Go to dailypbj.com/subscribe. I'm building a community to help me keep going in this project, and if you'd like to be part of that by donating on a monthly basis, go to dailypbj.com/support. Please send this to someone who is young and could use some encouragement about the way that they make choices in their life today. And I'll see you next time. May God bless you. Hope you have a great day today.